Okay, how to find an inverse of a function. Here we go. It says the equation for the inverse of a function, f, can be found as follows. It says replace f of x with y in the equation for f of x. So we're going to do step by step, okay? So, for example 2, it's asking us to, it says the functions are all one-to-one, and we'll need to explain that, what it means by one-to-one, and I'll put a definition up there. For each function, find an equation for f inverse of x, the inverse function. So, how to do that? Let's say example A. We have f of x is equal to x plus 10, and we want to find its inverse. Okay, well, what is it telling us to do? It says replace f of x with y in the equation for f of x. So the equation that we have here, f of x is equal to x plus 10. Where we see f of x, we're going to replace that with y. This is how we find the inverse. Once we do that, then we're going to interchange the x and y. Meaning where y is, you're going to put x there. Where x is, we're going to put y there. So interchange. That was step 2. The number 3, once we interchange, it says we're going to solve for y. So how would we solve for y here? Subtract 10. And we have x minus 10 is equal to y. Okay, and it says solve for y. If this equation does not define y as a function of x, the function f does not have an inverse function in this procedure n. If the equation does define y as a function of x, the function has an inverse of, the function f has an inverse function. Okay. So how could we write now? How will we write our final answer as an inverse, f inverse? Then what you're going to do here is take this y and replace it with f inverse of x. Okay. So what you're saying here, however you want to write it, you're saying f inverse of x is equal to x minus 10. That will be its inverse. Remember, what is going to undo this? What will undo a positive 10?
Negative 10.
We showed that. Because we're undoing. Okay? Now then it's asking us to verify that these two functions, f of x is equal to x plus 10, and then f inverse of x equals to x minus 10, to verify if they are inverses of each other. And we can do that okay. So this is what we're going to look at here, these two functions. So we're going to substitute x minus 10 into the equation of f of x for the variable x. That's what we're doing there. So where we see x in the x plus 10, we're going to plug in x minus 10. So you're saying x minus 10 plus 10. What's happening to the 10s? So that checks out. And even if we do its inverse of that, reverse it around, we're going to plug in x plus 10 in for x into the inverse equation. You're saying x plus 10 minus 10, we still have x. Okay? All right, so let's just practice converting equations to an inverse, a function equation to an equation where we are looking for its inverse. Okay, so let's do some practice with example 3, because I think you know how to verify it at this point now. Okay, so we'll make this A. We have here f of x is equal to 9x plus 1. I want you to find f inverse of x. Find its inverse. So let's go back to the directions, what it's telling us to do. It says we're going to replace f of x with y. Okay, then we're going to interchange the x and y. Once we do that, interchange, just switch. Where you see y, it becomes x. Where you see x, it becomes y. Once you interchange, then you're going to solve for y. So to solve for y, we do what? Help me out here. Subtract 1. So we have x minus 1 is equal to 9y, and then what's the last step? Divide by 9. And we have x minus 1 over 9 is equal to y. Then it says if f has an inverse, replace y in step 3 by f of x. So our equation, our inverse equation becomes f inverse of x is equal to x minus 1 over 9. What's that?
I just said it was fuzzy math.
Oh yeah, it is fuzzy. Okay, let's do another one. Because I know that, I'm going to say as of last night, I was looking at this section in Math Excel, making sure that I, pair my lesson with those questions that you're going to see there. Okay. We have here f of x is equal to x. What do we want here? Yeah, x cubed minus 4. Find f inverse. So here we go. Replace f of x with y. Then we're going to interchange the x and y. So that becomes x is equal to y cubed minus 4. And then solve for y. So to solve for y, we're going to add 4 to each side. X plus 4 is equal to y cubed. And then how would we solve for y when we have a cube here? The cube root of both sides. The cube root of x plus 4 equals to y. Therefore, its inverse. Now you're just replacing y with f inverse of x. There you go.